Hello and welcome to another edition of Deccan Dialogues. Today's episode brings to you a conversation between K Padmanabhaiah and Mohan Guruswamy. The topic for the conversation will focus on the state of development in the northeastern area. What ails these beautiful parts of the country? This is the topic that Padmanabhaiah and Mohan Guruswamy are going to talk about. K Padmanabhaiah is a retired Indian civil servant and is a former Home Secretary of India. Presently, he is the chairman of the Court of Governors of the Administrative Staff College of India, ASCI. Mr. Padmanabhaiah was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 2008 for his contribution to the Indian civil service. Mohan Guruswamy is a writer and a public intellectual. He's also a frequent commentator on national and international matters, and he writes on a wide variety of subjects in newspapers and magazines. What does development mean for an area that has already suffered years of political neglect accompanied by militarization? Is there something called a northeastern identity? Is development possible in this diverse area? These are some of the aspects and points that Padmanabhaiah and Mohan Guruswamy are going to discuss in today's conversation. Over to both of you.
Good evening and welcome to Guruswamy Center. This is not the first time you're coming here.
I know.
You spoke on good governance
that was
2 years ago.
Years ago.
And I wanted to specifically talk to you about a part of India which doesn't figure in our consciousness generally,
Very
the
true.
northeast of India. And you've been Home Secretary and you've been a long-term interlocutor with the Nagas. So I thought, there's nobody else who would know as much as this topic as you do. And you've also written about it and your conversations with the Naga leaders
Very true.
in Bangkok and other parts of the country. And what happens in Nagas, you get a settlement. There's still a settlement which eludes us. You get a settlement. What are the ramifications for other parts of the country? Kashmir, for one, straight away comes to mind, where they have the same distinctiveness as the Nagas and the same threat of foreign intervention or fear of foreign intervention. And Nagas, such a small part of the country. It used to be one district of the old Assam state. And
Assam state was a huge
state.
It was a country.
Even though the population is 20 lakhs.
Yeah, population is less.
Yeah, very small population. So what I was always fascinated was that the difference between each tribe is total in terms of language, in terms of the colors, and that the Naga has like a giant rake, some heavenly rake which cut 8 or 9 ranges. There are, each valley has
got its own language. Very true.
And how did this one Naga
identity
come? That was where I wanted you to start with.
Okay. Well, the word Naga was never used by the Nagas themselves.
Absolutely.
It's a word used by outsiders to describe all these tribes. Nobody would call himself a Naga.
Like
he
we
would
are
say,
Hindus.
Right.
He
would say, I am a Konyak, I am a Sema, I am a something else. That's how, those names would be there. But this was imposed on them, or it came because of the British. They were treating all these people as one homogeneous tribe, which it was not. And then the Assamese also used to call them Nagas. And so they adopted that word. In fact, the common language, the languages are different.
Absolutely, very different.
Very different. You don't understand what the other man is saying. Other
Ao and Konyak is very different.
Ao, Semas and all these people. So the common language for them is called Nagamese.
Pidgin language.
It's a Pidgin language. Nagamese it's called. It's a part of Assam. Assamese, part of taken from various dialects of the Naga.
And Hindi.
Right. And the man who gave a distinct identity to this is their old leader, Fizo.
Fizo.
Yeah, is at Fizo. So he was there prior to independence also, he was their leader. His history, he was a mechanic, a car mechanic. He was slightly educated chap at that time, engineering diploma or something he did. And then the Nagas participated in the labor corps of the First World War.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And partly in the Second War also, essentially in the First War. So when they went out, then they began talking to each other. A Konyak would talk to Sima, he would talk to another chap, Avo, Arangami and all that. So then they said, we must have some language. That is the Pidgin language. That's how it came. He is the one who sort of brought a Naga identity to them, And then it stuck.
I think the British also had a role in
Yeah,
that.
very much so, very much so.
DC Posse, Posset. He organized the Naga Club in 1940s.
Yes, very true.
And the British Army recruited them as labor porters.
As I said, the labor corps,
big role in the war. Big role.
Yeah, big role.
And they contributed willingly and happily.
Yeah, very happily.
And General Slim records that but for them, the
war was fought in the collector's compound. There is a tennis court there in Kohima. That's where the war was fought, So one of the Battle of Kohima.
Yeah. And my father and my uncle both served on the Eastern Front in the war. So they used to talk to me about the tennis court.
I know, the tennis court, this one.
And so they got that identity. And when did we begin to recognize them as one people? Government of India, that is.
Yeah, because you see, FISO 47 came 15th August. So he said we are all Nagas, and then we were never under anybody, under no king.
Which is also true.
Yeah. So we were given freedom to sort of pursue our own activities and our own life by the, they were called, all these areas were called excluded areas.
That's right.
In 1935 Constitution, during the British time, there were certain areas which are called excluded areas and partially excluded areas, where the laws of the other territory, Assam, did not apply. And then there is a lot of freedom given to them, subject to a few, overriding these things. But otherwise, a lot of freedom was given.
Yeah, the notion of sovereignty was different for them.
Yeah.
That Britain was sovereign, and even Britain went there only in
much later,
1900s.
Yeah, in fact, they tell me, I think the first time they went there is in 1890 or some such thing.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, or 1880, 1890 or some such thing. So they say the 47 years in the 20th century and then 20 years there. We were under British only for about 50, 60 years. That's what they would always say.
Never under you.
Never under you. So
we are the successor.
Right. You are the successors. You are successors of the British. But we were not part of the British Empire.
And to be fair to them, they never accepted, even then.
They never accepted.
That we want to be a part of you.
No. So what has happened is, on the one day before our independence, FISO sent a telegram to the UN, one, saying that we are a free nation, we don't want to join them. That's what he had sent. And before that, what he did was, he held a so-called plebiscite for all the people. And it's a great effort at that time to get representatives from various tribes.
Absolutely.
Who were not speaking the same language. They assembled in Kohima, and then all the tribes, about 18, 20 tribes.
The Tatar Ho-Ho.
Right.
At Konoma.
Yeah, I know. And then he told them, do you want freedom or do you want slavery? So everybody said freedom, and they raised their hands. So he said 100%, our polling has shown that we don't want to be with India. So that's how it started,
And I think our first mistake was that we thought we could
put it down,
crush it.
Yeah, we would crush it down by the armed forces. That's what we thought. Somebody said one battalion is good enough, some battalion, and ultimately it had to become a division in
a complete corps now.
Yeah. Now a corps. At that time, a division, and then 2, 3 divisions and all that. So that was the
problem there. And the army was not experienced in counterinsurgency, so they ran roughshod. Even now people talk about the cruelties perpetuated.
Very true. Very true.
Indian soldiers' attitude towards women. So they still part of the folklore of Manipur and Nagaland.
Right. But what rectified that situation, I must tell you to add, there used to be what is called the Indian Frontier Administration Service.
Yes, IFAS. Yeah.
IFAS. The people were drawn from the Army, Air Force, Navy, and then some fellows from the civil service. And they were very dedicated officers. And then they knew the boundaries, the frontier administration. And they could establish a trust, a confidence in these people. And some of them did extremely
Wonderful
well.
officers.
Wonderful officers.
This Tankul officer called Khating, Major Khating.
Yeah, Cutting, Major
He was the
Cutting.
man who went to...
Yeah, Major Cutting,
Who went to...
one of the mountains.
what's it?
Yeah,
Tawang.
Huh?
He hoisted the Indian
Yeah,
flag.
at Tawang. Very right. So, that is all history. So,
But clearly the army experience was not good for
No.
them or for us. Because at that time Nehru told, when Jayaprakash Narayan said, what are you doing? Nehru said, we're just going to send them for 3 months
I know.
and we'll be back.
And it became permanent,
It's now there, the core is located. Core also looks after part
Yeah,
of the Chinese frontier.
The Corps and Assam Rifles and
So the challenge, of course, for us is that how do we give them an assurance that to be a part of the Indian identity or the Indian experiment is beneficial to them.
you see, I tell you what, I think in the last 25 years or so, because my experience is slightly old, 25, 2010, I sort of gave up this job. But Home Secretary 1997, I had given up. Since then, there has been a lot of change. Now, it is imperceptible, but it is there. For example, we used to be called outsiders there. And nobody calls us outsiders now. Now what is happening is in Delhi and Bangalore and other places, we are calling them outsiders. We are calling them outsiders.
And we ill-treat them.
Yeah, I know. But there is some good thing out of that. But this shows, I mean, I never knew in 2012, there was a huge exodus of Northeast people from Bangalore, from Pune, from Hyderabad, from Bombay and all that. Riots took place in Assam.
That's right.
The Bodos and Muslims and all that. Big riots. And these people wanted to go. The trains were all jammed.
Yes.
And you remember about almost 3 lakh people left and went to this one. It is only then we realized that there are so many people from the Northeast India who have invested in the rest of the country for jobs and for various things and all that.
And cities like Bangalore have a large settlement of Nagas.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Similarly, in Delhi also, only when the troubles started, in Delhi police and Delhi, some of these people began calling them chinks and, all those names.
And local people calling them Chinese after the Chinese stopped
chinks and all that. But then that shows there were a lot of people, who had come.
Racist attitude. Even now if you go to any of the malls around Delhi, most of the salespeople are Naga.
Malls and then hotel receptionists and all that. The top hotels, restaurants and, some of these.
Where you need an English interface.
Yeah.
I think the missionary invested there, taught them English.
There are a lot of girls from Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh and all these things.
Hyderabad has got a call center. Have a lot of people from Nagaland
very
and
much
Manipur.
So. You see, they are very good at hospitality and they are very good at, music, fine arts and then dance. All these things they are very good, they are easily adaptable to that.
And they all speak a little bit of Hindi.
Yeah,
so
they do.
They pull along. And very fine people also.
They are, absolutely.
Very,
Indian army people, a lot of them married Naga girls. Indian police officers also married a lot of Naga girls.
I know many of them who live there.
Huh?
I know many of them who live there.
Yeah, I know.
And so I used to know a colonel who was married to a Naga.
Yes, I knew a number of forest officers who were married.
General Johnny Mukherjee, who was a co-commander, has a Naga lady as well.
I know.
And he says, I have no problem with a Naga son-in-law.
No problems at all.
We go to church together.
They are wonderful people.
As an Indian Army colonel who used to tell me that they had a Naga wife. He used to say, they knew I was in the army. He was posted in Kohima. But he'd go to church and they're all welcome. He said, many of the guys who were underground
very true
would come and greet me.
Very true.
And they say, I'm so and so, I'm so and so.
You see, Nagas, for us, they look like given to revolutionary these things and all that. But they are one of the most democratic society,
Absolutely.
I must tell you.
The tribal society is very democratic.
Very democratic. What they do is all decisions relating to the village are taken by the village elders, who calls a meeting of the entire Gram Sabha. Gaon Buddha is there, he calls them, and I think 13 or 14 is the age of voting there for people, to participate in that. Their views also are sort of respected, recognized, they are permitted to speak, and it's by majority the decisions are taken, not by majority, mostly by consensus, but if it doesn't happen by majority, they take the decisions.
Clearly, they are a distinct people.
They are a distinct people, there is no doubt.
Therefore, we need a distinct set of
Approach
administrative,
to them.
administrative arrangements.
That's why I mentioned about the Indian Frontier Administration Service.
Yeah.
It is a very bad step that we abolished that service.
True.
And then merged part of it into the IAS and all that. But I wish it had continued. They had done some excellent work. So, you see, I would tell you another thing. It is Fizo who called all the tribes and then took this one. Now, to reverse that, the process is you have to pass another resolution of all the Naga tribes who have to say that that resolution is no longer functional. So you have to reverse that. This is their democratic process. If some decision has been taken, if it had to be reversed, there has to be a decision passed in the same fashion by calling all the. Now you can't call all the tribes now, and how do you reverse it? Who can take this? This is one of the problems Miwa told me. So in case, even if we want to give up that particular stand, that we are sovereign or whatever it is, we can't do it because that resolution is there, binding us. So how do I get out of it?
After your stint, I've read, and I've heard that the next interlocutor had agreed to many of the conditions which were sticking. That is, a constitution,
right?
Like a separate, little more than Article 370 kind of status for them. A flag. And they had agreed. And then suddenly you had the situation in Kashmir where you withdrew everything.
I know. Exactly.
So, obviously, case of one hand not knowing what the other hand is doing.
I know.
And so, where do we go now? They have shown through their experience that they can fight, they have patience.
I know.
I
know. But I see 2-3 sort of areas of hope. You see, one thing is, they are not claiming sovereignty now. But what they are saying is, when the discussions took place, the present government talks of a framework agreement to 2015. That framework agreement was done actually by me during my tenure. The same thing has been presented to the government, but they have not been able to take a decision on that because there are 2-3 sticking points. The sticking points are, the Nagas are there not only in Nagaland,
Manipur and Arunachal.
They are in Manipur, they are in parts of Assam, and they are in parts of Arunachal Pradesh.
Changlang.
Changlang. Changlang and Tirap, those two divisions, they are there. So what they are saying is, if we enjoy this, whatever freedom you are giving or whatever powers you are giving, our brothers also must have. So let there be a sort of Naga council. They were wanting merger. The merger would not take place. It's out of question. You can't do that because you can't change the boundaries of these states because they would fight tooth and nail. What they are saying is, give the same autonomy to them. Call them an autonomous council or whatever it is. Whatever powers you are going to give to Nagaland, it must be given to them. But they would function from the respective states. Manipur hill areas would enjoy the same benefit the Naga hill areas. So this is one proposal which they have made.
Manipur, of course, the Meiteis are in the valley. And they would not like.
They won't like. But
the Nagas are on the hills around the valley.
I know. That is a problem, the valley and the hill people. But I think some sort of an autonomous councils with a little more powers can be given to these people. They won't press for a greater Nagaland.
Then what happens to the Naga brothers in Burma? Konyaks are mostly in Burma.
Our negotiations relate only to the people who are here. We hold no candle. The negotiations were not with them. It was very clear. Miwa has no responsibility to the people in Myanmar. They need to find their own solution, In any case, you can't get them into India. They are part of Myanmar. So Myanmar should take care of them.
Okay.
So that is it. So that is one. The second one is about the dismantling of their cadres. All those cadres are there. Now, once you get into an agreement, you need to, so they need to be rehabilitated. Where do you rehabilitate them?
BSF, we had 2 BSF battalions.
So they are saying you have some battalions in the Indian Army. You have JK Light Infantry. You have Rajasthan Light Infantry.
We have a Naga regiment.
We have a Naga regiment also. So they said you recruit these people, and then
which incidentally got 2 Mahavir Chakras in Kargil.
Correct. And then, yeah, you are absolutely right. And one of their arguments is, which you may agree or may not agree, they said who would have a vested interest in protecting the boundaries of Nagaland from any outsiders?
Or who will get more land?
And who knows more about that border than Nagas? So you make us responsible as a part of the Indian Army. Along with the Indian Army, we would be subordinate to that, but the responsibility, the border management should be given to us. Now, I am inclined, I mean, I am in no position to but my personal view is there is nothing wrong in it. So, to do that, because you have given a response, you have taken them, as you said, in the regiment is there, they have fought in Kashmir, they have done, acquitted themselves extremely well. Huh?
2
Mahavir Chakras. So, this is one. This is the other point. Third one is about flag. The flag, you see, there is a decision by the Supreme Court some time ago. Some of our Indian-owned states.
Tamil Nadu has a flag.
No, they don't have a flag. They wanted a flag, but they never pursued it. So, Karnataka also wanted to have a flag, and there was some negotiation took place between the government of India, but they did not pursue the issue, What the Supreme Court said was that as long as Indian national flag is supreme,
you can have flags.
You can have another flag. There is no problem.
Absolutely.
But it will be subordinate to this. And our flag code also does not say anything about a state flag and all that. It does not prohibit. So somebody has said cooperative societies have got cooperative flag. There's 7 colors and all that. Yeah. Every party has got a flag. So what is wrong if a particular state?
I agree. I entirely agree.
I think these are symbolic, So, but that symbolism, I mean, after you sort out all those things.
What about Article 370, you knocked it out in one state.
No, but there is an Article 371 already. I think B applies to Nagaland, or A or B, one of these things. A, I think, is to Nagaland, A to H, all those states, each state is covered by a particular provision there. And one more thing is, the governors of all these states, the northeastern states, have got extraordinary powers.
True.
They have a power, constitutional power, responsible for the law and order, especially in Arunachal Pradesh and all that.
True.
And then they have a special responsibility for the tribal areas, the hill areas and all that. But the point is, the governors there, 2 of the governors' posts are vacant even today. There are additional charges. And all of them are, political fellows. Retired political appointment is political, but these are all from the BJP's old guard, I mean.
And some of them are up to dirty tricks, like there was a guy in Meghalaya or something.
I know.
The women complained there. And
I know. So that's what I'm saying. There is only one fellow who is from the army, a brigadier.
I know him.
I'm forgetting the name. Arunachal Pradesh, and also in charge of some other place. So that brigadier is there. He is the only chap. And otherwise, they are all political fellows. So since those governors are not figureheads, but they have higher responsibilities, I think we should post some people with, not very old, fairly.
Brigadier Saab is a very old guy.
Yeah, he is also old guy. He retired long time ago.
He retired in the early 90s.
Early 90s and all that. So some effective fellows, have some good administrators from the IAS chaps, IPS chaps, from army. I think this is a combination. And they should be very active and they should participate. There is a provision in, for example, Manipur, which says the governor has to send every year a report to the President of India about the status of the hill areas and their problems and how it is being done. It is in the constitution.
The governor has to do that in every state. He has to do it in Telangana, he has to do it in Karnataka, everywhere. But where there is Section 25 areas. Section 25 areas.
Yeah.
Schedule 25 areas.
Schedule 25 areas.
They don't do it?
Schedule 5 areas.
Schedule 5 areas. They don't do it?
They don't do it. That's what I'm saying. So I tried to look whether the governor of Manipur had ever sent a proposal. I found none, So that's what I'm saying. Governors can play a great role in this particular one.
But they've turned the Raj Bhavan into places for little politics.
I know, that is a problem. So I don't think the problems are that, you see, when I compare that 25 years ago, the situation was, you remember the Nilli massacre, 1983?
Yeah.
How many? 3,000 fellows were killed.
4,000 people died.
4,000 people died and about 3 lakhs, 4 lakh people were displaced.
Yes.
Then the 1996 Bodo and Santhal, this one.
Conflict,
I was Home Secretary at that time. I just couldn't digest because Genghis Khan movie, you see, with the flame torches, you come and torch every hut wherever these Santhals were there. They burn their places and then go away. They come on horses. They come on horses and then they burn all these things, and about 3 lakh people were displaced in that particular one.
2 years ago, there was a conflict between Nagas and Assamese in that disputed area on the border.
Yeah, on the disputed area. So what
one village.
I know. So what I'm saying is, primordial, this one, feelings and sentiments, all that has reduced very, very much. But you raised the question of disputed area. It's called disputed area DAB. What does B stand for? Border. Disputed area border or whatever. It neither belongs to Assam nor belongs to Nagaland. It is the CRPF which is there.
Which controls it.
Which controls that. And I mentioned to the then powers in government, Prime Minister and all that, it is about 13,000 square kilometers of area, which is DAB it is called. DAT.
Another contentious issue is the Armed Forces Special
Act, AFSA. That is also there. Then I suggested to them, sir, this area, why don't you make it into an industrial zone, the free trade zone for, a free trade zone for Nagaland, I mean for the northeast. And then you are, now that you have a 2027 or 21 digital plan for the northeast, they have a digital plan. They want to put up some 10,000 crores. They want to invest there in 5 years period. That could be developed into this one. These chaps are intelligent. They are good at mathematics and some of these things. So either you could make a free trade zone there, or you could use an industrial zone. You can do these things, One more thing which needs to be done in all these areas are, I think this is very important from the point of view of controlling insurgency. By 6 o'clock, it becomes dark by 5:30.
The time hours are different.
The times are different. And then there is complete darkness on the roads. The roads are narrow. The roads are not well lit. So people are afraid of traveling there because you don't know where the ambush would come. On either side of the road, huge grass grows to the level of about 5 to 6 feet. Yeah. They can hide in that and then.
Grass,
I told Mr. Manishankar Iyer when he was in charge of the Northeast Development, this one. I said the first thing that is required in the Northeast is broad roads, 4-lane, 6-lane roads you build. Going from one state to all state capitals should be connected by that road. Have beautiful lighting.
Along the road.
That area is rich in power.
Yes.
Electricity. So you can have beautiful well-lit roads, and then you should have mobile patrols in those areas. I tell you, then the connectivity with this so-called the Look East or Act East policy would become this one. When this road network improves, railways are in a poor state. There is no railway for Tripura or Mizoram. There is no rail. Whatever is there is a meter gauge or some such thing. It's not electrified.
Now they have a broad gauge to Itanagar.
To Tinsukia, Assam has.
No, to Arunachal, to Itanagar now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Dibrugarh and all that, right up to
Tinsukia
and all that. So that is there, but it is not electrified.
No.
So electrification can be done. All this can be done, So I think infrastructure and economic development, it's not a poor state. Let me tell you, the per capita income in the northeastern states is much higher than the average for the India. And Also
because per capita development expenditure is highest.
I know. So Sikkim is one of the top countries.
Absolutely.
After Goa, Sikkim is the second one for per capita income,
Because
followed by Mizoram.
True.
So per capita income is high, and their human development indices
Are higher.
HDI are
Much
higher than India.
Much higher.
Huh?
Much higher.
The only state which is below the national average is Assam. But otherwise, all the
Assam
other
is a
states,
poor big brother there.
yeah, they are all above the national average. And even Assam is more than UP, Bihar, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, and all these places.
But do you think that the government has lost interest in that area now?
I don't think so. Because the point is, all of them are BJP governments. There are 8 states.
But they switch to whichever party is in power in Delhi.
That happens. That happens. Because they are very intelligent people, the Northeast chaps. This double barrel government,
Yeah.
as they say, they said, look, unless people protect us, so we should get concessions from them, funds from them and all that. So they always are looking for which government is there, they would switch to that. Whatever are the reasons. But 2016, the BJP made an entry into that in Assam.
And a complete sweep now.
Sorry?
Everybody, all the states except Meghalaya, I think.
No, 4 states are completely with the BJP government, and 4 other states are in the NDA.
True.
All the states are in the NDA and BJP, and in all these states they have what are called autonomous districts, tribal districts and all that under Schedule 6. Most of them, except one in the Tripura, they are all with BJP or BJP coalition.
But overall,
So they should be able to do that, now.
But overall, I think, I agree with the last 30 years or so. Things have cooled down.
Things have cooled down. That type of primordial passions and all that are not there.
Association of identity
But
is also not there.
one situation in Manipur is still quite alarming. Manipur, what happens is, there are at least 35 groups, armed groups in the valley, in the hills, Naga hills. And
I counted at one time there were 8 communist factions.
Right.
And people that
the cookies have their own, this one, about 10-15 of them. Nagas have another 15 of them. And Valley has got another 15-20. All of them are free.
But that has a lot of linkage with the drug trafficking.
Drug trafficking and all that. Yeah. Smuggling and drug trafficking through More and all that.
More, yeah.
So I think the Manipur needs a lot of attention, Assam, they have done some good, because they have now negotiated with those tribals also, Santals. And there are about 23 tribals, Adivasis.
Santals mostly.
Huh?
Santals mostly.
Mostly Santals and various
Ronaos, yeah.
other things. So they have signed an agreement in September or so. Good. And they have promised that 100 crores by the center and 100 crores by the state government. That is about 200 crores for 5 years, 1,000 crores.
But
we would spend on
all said and done, given the diversity of the area and given their limited
resources,
ethnic linkage
I know.
also with the rest of India, and we always talk about Aryans and Dravidians, but there was a Tibetan Burman
I know.
influx into India from the east also.
Very much so, very much so.
We should think of not being rigid about public administration.
You see, somebody has said, when you build a house, the first thing you have to take care is your compound wall.
Absolutely.
Unless you build a good compound wall, they would come and foul your bedroom.
Absolutely.
Now, we neglected it in the past, completely neglected it. Patel had said, Sardar Patel, he said it is ethnically a very different one. They are not ethnically, they are different.
Why aren't we able to do it? We all understand, you understand, people in Delhi
But
understand.
the interest was not there. Earlier, the interest was not there. What they have done is, they have left things to the Northeast fellows. You rule there, you manage whatever you can do.
Just keep it quiet.
Keep
do
it
what
quiet,
you want.
keep quiet. So that was the approach. That is the approach even now to an extent. I will tell you a funny fact. In Arunachal Pradesh, they signed about 1,440 agreements with private parties for putting up micro
Power plants. Idle.
micro, mini and big idle projects. 1,440 agreements have been signed, and each agreement, I am told, has a lot of kickbacks.
Yeah.
Even a 2 megawatt plant can give you a lot of profits.
I know.
So because the water is free, and it's this one. And now very recently in May or so, they cancelled about 80 of them because they said they have no interest and all that. But the other ones, they should do something. So they have a lot of resources.
So much has to be done. I think it calls for a focus. You have a ministry.
It calls for a focus.
I am appalled that the minister for donor is sitting in Hyderabad all the time.
All the time.
He should be sitting in Assam. Or,
absolutely, he should have been sitting there.
I have raised this question once or twice before.
In fact,
why aren't you there?
In fact, there is no harm to appoint a Northeast gentleman as a minister for the Northeast. Only thing is, they might have, he is, if he is from Assam, it should not be from Assam. It should be from some other smaller, this one, I think that would be useful.
Well, I think, we hope this conversation will get people in Delhi to focus on that area.
I hope so. Let us see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling me, and it's nice always to chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.